All right, as we get started today, going to start with another speed drill. Speed test 34 at the top of page 16 in your speed drill booklets. All addition and subtraction. So all addition on the top row. Just be careful with decimals on a couple of them. Make sure on number 4, don't forget the $ in your answer. All right. And then on numbers 6 through 10, just subtraction. Be careful with borrowing. You see some of these, you're going to need to write in some zeros, fill in some gaps there. You're going to have 3 minutes for speed drill 34, and you may begin. Stop. All right, pencils off your desks. Have a pen out and exchange with the person behind you. Exchange with the person behind you. Person in the back, bring yours to the front. All right, exchange the person behind you, person in the back, yours to the front. Sign your name in pen as the grader. Next to where it says speed test 35. Right next to where it says speed test 35, there at the bottom of speed drill 34. Sign your name as the grader. Just as a reminder, all these speed drills that we're going to do this quarter average together for 1 quiz grade. So I think there's 13 or so we're going to take this quarter. Averaged all together comes to 1 quiz grade. By the way, if you want to flip back to the previous one, 33 we took last time, that was the one that didn't have to count unless you did well. I believe if it's got a slash through it, it means I chose not to count it, or DNC means I decided not to count it for you. But most of you actually did pretty well. I was pretty impressed with speed test 33 last time. All right, anyway, speed drill 34. Here we go with the answers. I'll read each answer twice. Pay attention carefully. If it's wrong, just put a slash through it. If it's correct, leave it alone. Number 1, the answer should be 226. 226. Number 2, 17.771. 17.771. Number 3 is 129,144. $129,144. Number 4 should be $117.64. $117.64. Now, if they just forgot the dollar sign, just minus a point. They shouldn't have. I specifically said something, but we're human. So if they just forgot the dollar sign, just minus a point. If they forgot the decimal, though, that's a bigger deal. Mark it all wrong for now. Number 5, 1,531. 1,531. Bottom row going across. 7.318. 7.318. Number 7, 3.376. 3.376. For number 8, 68.829. 68.829. For number 9, 93,387. 93,387. And number 10, 55,198. 55,198. All right, 10 points each. Figure the score to the best of your ability. Put it in the score blank. And then also, if you would, please, put it on the score page for the semester 2 scores. Put it on the score page next to where it says speed drill 34. Next to where it says speed drill 34. Then if you would, pass it forward to the owner. Person in the front, carry it to the back. Person in the front, take it to the back. And take a look at your scores, and let's see how we did. Are you waiting for yours to get back to you? Oh, okay. All right. Any hundreds today on a Monday morning? All right. How about 90s? Just missed one thing. Still really good. 80s? Still pretty respectable there. Just missed a couple things. All right. Any questions? Any questions? Yes, ma'am. Which one?
Number 8.
Number 8. Yeah, so a number 8, you don't necessarily have to write in the missing zeros. It wouldn't be a problem to write them in those so that you can see 9 minus nothing is 9, 2 minus nothing is 2. We have to borrow here, 16 minus 8 is 8. Borrow again, 12 minus 4 is 8, and then 7 minus 1 is 6. So 68.829. Do you see what you did? Did you forget to borrow somewhere, or forget that you had borrowed somewhere? All right, good. Any other questions on speed test 34? Yes, one more?
Number 9.
Number 9. Okay, so you got 137,216 minus 43,829. Again, we're going to borrow right off the bat. Make this 16 minus 9 is 7. Borrow again. Make this 10 minus 2 is 8. Borrow again. Make this 11 minus 8 is 3. And now we don't have to borrow. 6 minus 3 is just 3. No borrowing needed. So this is still a 13 minus 4 is 9. We didn't have to borrow from that one. Did you borrow here? You're going to 12 minus 4 is 8. Because I can see that would be an easy trap to fall into. All right. Any other questions on it? Yes, ma'am. One more.
The last one.
Very last one. Okay. Just basically be careful with borrowing, I guess, is the theme here as we start on this Monday morning. Again, borrow to get a 3, make it 16 minus 8 is 8. Borrow, make it 13 minus 4 is 9. Borrow, make it 10 minus 9 is 1. Borrow, make it 11 minus 6 is 5. 6 minus 1 is 5. And there's our answer for number 10. Just be careful with all that borrowing stuff. Okay. All right, go past this board if you would please now, and take your homework out. Books, financial literacy supplements, open to page 4. Have your supplements open to page 4. Stay. All right. Thank you. We'll work this back in here. All right. Have your homework out. As you've got your homework out, let's review some things. Because I've said here, there's a lot of terms as we start talking about finance. Go ahead and have the homework out. It was page 4, the homework section, numbers 1 through 10. And a lot of terms that you got to keep up with. Just right here. Good. Good.
I have my calculator.
You don't need it today anyway. Good. Good. And page 4. Page 4. All right, a lot of terms. And the first term I gave you referred to money that you make in general. Money that is made, money that is earned, class is called
income.
Income. And there's lots of ways you can make money. But if you work for someone else, the person who pays you, the person you work for, is referred to, Corey, as your employer, and you as the worker are referred to, Bryson, as the employee. The money that you actually earn, not the money you get to keep, the money you actually earn is referred to, Griffin, as Joel.
Gross pay.
Gross pay. But, class, what comes along and takes away from the gross pay? Deductions, yeah. So what are you left with, Jalen, after the gross pay has experienced all of its deductions, much of which is taxes, which we'll talk about later?
The net pay.
The net pay is what you actually wind up with. Several ways in which you can make money. One of the ways you can make money is if you get a set amount every month, guaranteed, as long as you don't get fired, this is how much money you're going to have. Really easy on budgeting, easy to plan your finances, because you don't have to worry about, well, what if they cut my hours? Or what if they, what if I get sick? Like, this is how much money you're making. What's that referred to as, Elaine?
Salary.
Salary. What if, though, you make money, especially this is most starter jobs work this way, and several other jobs too, where you get paid per hour that you work, a certain amount of money per hour. Wages. And there was another thing, though, if you're in a service type occupation where you help people or care for people's needs, they may give you a little extra to help out directly from the customer. Luciana? A tip, right? There we go. So tips, certainly those in service occupations like those. And then there was something else where you got paid for every item that was completed or every task that was accomplished. What type of pay is that? Go for that one as well, Luciana? Piecework pay, piecework wages. Now, people who get tips usually also get a set hourly wage. It's just usually a little bit lower of a wage than others would get, and the tips are supposed to make up for that. But there is a way to make wages get bigger. And you could earn, if you normally earn this much per hour, there's a way to suddenly earn this much per hour. It's by working overtime. Now, how many is the standard number of hours that the United States government has set? This is how many hours a week full-time people should work.
40 hours.
40 hours. Anything over 40 is called overtime. And there was a way we figured the pay rate. There was a 4-word little phrase that we used to describe overtime pay. What was that 4-word phrase, Jalen? She just forgot it. Elaine?
Time and a half.
Time and a half. Class, say that with me. Time and a half. Now, what it really means is your normal wage for time plus half again. So, for instance, let's make it easy. Let's say it's 20 bucks an hour, which would already be really good pay. Well, time and a half. Well, what would the half be, class? 10 more, right? So what is your wage then? 30 bucks an hour. Your regular time rate plus half again, now you're up to 30 bucks an hour, which is pretty decent pay. So overtime hours, anything above 40. Now the first 40 hours, that's still regular rate. But that 41st hour, that's 1 hour of overtime pay. 42nd hour, there's 2 hours of overtime pay. And that was something that was included in your homework. That wasn't all your homework covered. We'll talk about another way of making money here in just a little bit as well. All right, I think that's just about all the things we've covered here. Let's take a look at the homework. And numbers 1 through 5, did you notice a lot of percent stuff again? That's because today's lesson is going to hinge on percents. So again, Joel, I know you were out for all of this. You weren't here for this, so pay really good attention so you can catch on to what we're doing here. Number 1, it says find 2% of 584. Well, when it says of, class, we know of means multiply. So literally, Joel, this means 2% times 584. But we don't actually multiply a percent. Instead, class, we write the percent as a decimal. And how do we change a percent to a decimal? Class, we go
Boing, boing.
boing, boing. And so we take the decimal after the 2, we go boing, boing, and it becomes 0.02. Joel, any questions on that? Seem easy enough? And then we just multiply. And when we multiply, what do we get for our answer on number 1? Ben?
11.64.
Not 11.64. Careful, what's 2 times 4? I know it's Monday. 2 times 4, come on.
8.
8, there we go. And then the rest of it was good, right? 11.68 should have been our answer there for number 1. So on number 2, Joel, it says find 220% of 42. Joel, what does of mean?
You divide.
Now, what does of mean, Joel? Multiply. So that means we're going to multiply, but we're not going to multiply 220%. We have to change it to a decimal. We go boink, boink, and what does it become?
924.
Okay, what is 200? I'm not asking for the answer. Listen to my question, please, and answer exactly what I'm asking. How do we rewrite 220% as a decimal?
2.20.
2.20. Do I have to use the zero? No, I don't have to. It would make my life a little easier if I didn't. So I'm just going to say 2.2. And of, you said, means multiply. So we're going to multiply by 42. Now, you're right. When we multiply, we do end up getting 924. But I have one decimal place that needs to go in the answer. So we put that one decimal place back in, and now it's 92.4. Does that make sense? How many had 92.4 on number 2? Looking at number 3, this time, Joel, I don't know the percent. I'm finding the percent. So when I know both sides of the word of, class, we do what of means. We multiply. But here I don't know both sides of. So instead of multiplying, class, I divide it. Here's the way to think of it. Whenever I start with the first given number, this is called the percentage, but whenever I start with the first number, I always put it over whichever other number I've got. Whichever other number always goes underneath it. So in this case, class, I'm going to put what underneath the 10?
55.
55. Now, then I'm going to turn this into a percent. But to do it, I turn it into a decimal first. Probably it's 10/55. I don't know what that is as a decimal, but what does the fraction bar tell me to do, class? Divide. But, Elaine, rather than dividing 10 by 55, which might be a bit obnoxious, I could reduce both of these by 5 to reduce my fraction to
11.
And then, instead of dividing 10 by 55, 2 gets divided by 11. Now, it's very important. The top number goes in the house. The top number goes in the house. The 2 goes in the house. The 11 comes outside. I'm going to add on some zeros here. So, 11 goes into 20, class. Only once. How many left over? 9. Bring down a 0. How many times 11 go into 90? 8 times. That's 88. How many left over? 2. Bring down a 0. How many times 11 go into 20? 1. Wait a second. What's going to keep happening, class? 1, 8, 1, 8, 1, 8, blah, blah, blah. Now it says here, round to the nearest whole percent. Well, the whole percent has how many decimal places here, Elaine?
1, 2.
Go back 2 places. So this becomes 18.181818, but we're just going to say approximately 18%. How many had 18% on number 3? Joel, does that make sense? When you're finding the percent, just take the first number divided by the second number, and that'll give you your percent. Now on number 4, it says 78 is 30% of what number? Well, for this one here, let me make sure that's showing up on the screen there. For this one here, again, anytime you're given the first number, you're going to put it over whatever other number they give you. In this case, what needs to go underneath, Jalen? The 30%. But I don't write 30%. I always change percents to
0.3.
decimals. So in this case, 0.3. Well, class, are you allowed to divide by a decimal? Are you allowed to put 78 in the house and 0.3 outside? No. So, Jalen, we've got to move the decimal.
To the right once.
But if I do it outside the house,
You have to do it on the inside.
and there we go. So this becomes a 780 divided by 3. You're familiar with that from your elementary days. So same thing here, by the way. If you wanted to do it here and turn it into 780 over 3, you could do it here. You don't have to wait till the house. 3 goes into 7, Jalen.
Twice.
With 1 left. 3 goes into 18.
6.
With nothing left, 3 goes into 0. 0. So my answer is,
260.
how many had 260 on number 4? So number 5, we're back to finding the percent. 35 is what percent of 140? How do I set this up, Michael? Make a fraction. What goes on top?
140.
Oh, Michael, the pain.
Of 35.
35. Remember, the first number always goes on top, and whichever of these other numbers you're given, just slide it underneath. You're going to be 35 over the 140. Now, Michael, I think you're pretty good with numbers. What can I reduce by?
You can 35.
Yes, actually, you can. I was thinking 7. I wasn't thinking that big. I was thinking take a 7 out of both of these and get 5/20ths. But you're right. You could divide all the way by a 35 and get all the way down to
1/5. Wait. 1/4.
1/4. Well, we've memorized what 1/4 is as a decimal class. 0.25, and therefore if I make it a percent, boink, boink, I end up with, Michael,
25%.
25%. How many had 25% on number 5? All right, questions on those first 5, especially Joel. You feel pretty good about this? Because if you can do this, today's lesson is going to be a breeze for you. Questions on those first 5. All right, let's take a look at number 6. Go ahead and read number 6 for us, Griffin.
Mike Owen charges $15 an hour to do yard work. He gives a 20% discount to retired or disabled customers. 1 week he worked 17 hours doing yard work. Of the 17 hours, he worked 5 hours for a disabled customer. How much money did he earn that week?
All right, $15 an hour, 20% discount. Okay, so 17 hours total, right? Some of these he charged the regular price, and some of these he gave a discount rate to. Does that make sense? Everyone kind of understand the problem. Now, how many hours of the 17 did he charge his regular rate, Griffin?
12.
12, because he said only had 5 hours at the discount rate. So 12 hours regular rate, 5 hours, 5 hours at the discount rate. Regular rate, he charged how much per hour?
15.
$15 per hour. But the discount rate, he gave 20% off. So what do I have to do? If I know he normally charges 15, but he's giving military and disabled people 20% off, what do I do? Multiply what?
0.2 by 15.
0.2 times 15. And when we do 0.2 times 15, what do we get? 2 times 5.
10.
Carry the 1.
3.
And then we put our decimal back in. So the 20% off is 3 off, right? Now he normally charges 15. So if he's giving them $3 off, how much is he actually charging the disabled and veterans? How much does he normally charge?
15.
15 an hour. He's giving them how much off?
3.
$3 off. So he's only charging them
12.
$12 an hour. How many figured out, this was key to get that discount. This goes all the way back to what we did earlier in the year. How many got the $12 an hour discount rate? How many it makes sense now when you see? You didn't think of it last night or over the weekend as you did it, but now that you see, like, okay, that makes sense. Just multiply the 0.2, 20% times the 15, get $3 off, so he's really charging 12 an hour. Does it make sense now? Any questions on that? All right, so let's start with the easy math. The disabled and veterans. 5 hours he spent doing their was it lawn work? Yeah, yard work. 5 hours he spent doing yard work for them. He charges them only $12 an hour. How much did he make from the disabled and the veterans?
$60.
$60, okay? Then 12 of his hours he spent last week. Was last week? Yeah, that week. 12 hours that week. He was charging people the full 15 an hour. How much is that, Griffin? It works very quickly to redo this.
180.
180, there we go. That was very quick. Now, so when it says how much did he make, did he earn that week, the answer is?
230.
Oh, 240. 6 plus 8 is 14. So $240. How many figured out $240 total? All right, a few of you did. Questions from those who didn't? Questions from those who didn't? Getting the tiered approach there, where you have 2 different tiers of customers. All right, let's take a look at number 7. It's an interesting one. And let's go to Luciana for this one.
Allison and Amy Scott work 15 hours per week at separate jobs. Allison's shifts in the hospital were $10.50 per hour. Amy works at a restaurant for $5.75 per hour plus tips. Amy averages $78 in tips for 15 hours. Who earns more each week?
All right, so we actually have to find 2 different answers here, don't we? First, we have to figure out how much Allison makes. Then we got to figure out how much
Amy.
Let's start with Allison. How much does Allison earn, Luciana, according to the problem?
$10.50
Per hour, right? $10.50 an hour. And she works how many hours?
15.
So we just multiply 10.50 by 15. Do you have that answer written down?
15, $157.5.
$157.50. How many, looking at your work, you found that Allison makes this much? 15 hours times 10.50 an hour, she gets $157.50. All right, questions on how to do that. Now, Her sister, Amy, she works at a
Restaurant.
restaurant. She's not working at the hospital. So coming over here to Amy, she still works the same 15 hours, but she only makes
$5.75.
$5.75 an hour. So when we multiply this out, do you have that answer written down by any chance?
164.
That's before that. Before there's a number before that I'm looking for, because that includes our tips. We're getting to the tips in a second.
816.25.
86.25. Okay, is what we would have had there. $86.25 is how much Amy earns. But being at a restaurant, she makes this lower wage, right? But she also collects class tips. How much does it say she made in tips, Luciana?
$78.
So if we add those $78 on, really how much does Amy make in her 15 hours?
$164.25.
She gets $164.25. How many had that number as her final number for Amy? All right, does that make sense how to work a tips type pay? Figure the hourly pay and then add the tips on at the end. So the question was, Luciana, who makes more, Allison or Amy?
Amy.
Amy, just by a little bit. She doesn't make much more, but Amy actually earns more. Questions on how to figure hourly wages. Questions on hourly wages plus tips. Does it make sense? Figure the hourly wage first and then add the tips on at the end. Questions on number 7. All right, number 8. Read that for us if you would, Corey.
Mr. Tabor earned $360 for manufacturing 15 items at his factory. Find a proportion to show how much he would earn at the same rate for completing 22 pieces.
I can't remember in this class, actually. Have we talked about proportions yet? I know we talked about ratios. Feet down there, Joel. Have we talked about proportions yet? A proportion is basically 2 equal fractions. So, for instance, if I said 3/5 equals 6/10, that's considered a proportion. You have 2 equal fractions or 2 equal ratios. We have worked with ratios, at least. If we said, for instance, there are 3 girls in the room right now because Kirsten's out sick. Hope you get feeling better, Kirsten. 3 girls in the class right now and 6 boys. So we would say that's 3 girls to 6 boys. Or we could reduce and say the ratio of girls to boys is class 1 to 2. Well, let's suppose we knew that that trend was consistent throughout the whole school. And let's suppose we knew that the whole school had 104 boys in it. And we want to know how many girls there were. Well, we could just simply set up an equal ratio type thing. And that's how we would solve this. So coming back now to Mr. Tabor. He manufactures how many items, class? 15 items. And he makes how much money? $360. So there's a ratio of 15 items he completes, earning $360. So now, for my next equal ratio, we're going to put the same thing. Items over money. And Corey, coming back to you, what's the other number they give us? Is it items or money?
Items.
Items. How many pieces or items does it say he completes now?
42.
42, and it wants us to find the money. And so we'd have to find the money that way. Well, when we solve a proportion, have we talked about cross multiplication in this class? Okay, we have. Again, I teach Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 in this class, so my classes get confused. All right, so we have taught this. We can replace this with the letter x. We can just cross multiply. 15 times x becomes, well, run it together, 15x. And over here, 360 times 42. At your seats if you didn't already get it. What's 360 times 42? By the way, you won't actually have anything like this on a quiz or test in case you're panicking right now, okay? This would be later, okay? You're not going to have anything like this in the money section, quizzes and tests. Just an introduction, I guess, to these. What you got, Corey?
15,120.
Anyone else get 15,120? Several hands there. Good. So now to finish out the problem, we just have to divide away the 15. And how many times does 15 go into 15, class? Once. Nothing left over. How many times does 15 go into 1?
0.
How many times does 15 go into 12?
0.
Still 0. How many times does 15 go into 120? 8 times. And so our answer would be $1,008. Now that's not the only way to solve it. Anyone else get 1,008? Oh, it didn't even say you had to solve it. It just said write a proportion. So our answer was actually this.
Oh, man.
But anyway, 1,008 would be how much money he makes. All right, questions on 8. All right, we move on. Number 9, read that for us if you would, Jalen.
David Bazis
Sure. Basis, basis, whatever. Bazis. Continue.
Earns $9.25 per hour. He worked the following schedule last week: Monday 8 to 3, Tuesday 8:30 to 5, Wednesday 7:30 to 4:30, Thursday 7:30 to 1, Friday 1:30 to 3:30, Saturday 9 to 11:30. He receives 1 hour off for lunch if he works at least 4 hours. Find his gross pay at the end of the week.
All right, so here we're going to do some clock math. You ready with me? From 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock. That's your school day. How many hours is that, class?
7.
7 hours. From 8 to 3, because 8 to noon is 4 hours, plus 3 more would be 7. All right, what about 8:30 to 5? How many hours is that?
8:30.
8.5, right? 8.5 or 8 hours, 30 minutes. Okay, what about 7:30 all the way to 4:30?
11? No, that is not 11.
That's 9 hours, right? 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11:30, 12:30, 1:30, 2:30, 3:30, 4:30, right? So that's 9 hours. What about, don't call it out just yet, 7:30 to 1. Figure it out at your seats. 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11:30, 12:30 to 1 o'clock. Class? 5.5 hours. All right, then Friday, this is an easy one finally. 1:30 to 3:30. 2 hours. And then Saturday, 9 to 11:30. Careful. 2.5. 2.5 hours. Now, remember, any day he works at least 4 hours, he gets an hour off for lunch, correct? So even though it says he worked 7 hours, one of those hours was lunch. So really, class, this is only 6 hours. This is really only 7.5. This is really only 8. This is 4.5. This is 2. It really is 2 because he didn't get a lunch break. This is 2.5 because he didn't get a lunch break. Whew, so we had all those together. Well, a half, and a half class is 3 halves, or 1.5. So we're going to carry a 1. And then let's see here. 8 and 2 is 10. Let's see here. 6 and 4, 10 more. And then 2, 7, and 1 is another 10. So it's 10, 10, 10. That's 30.5 hours, or 30.5 hours. First step was to figure out how many hours he worked. Did anyone get 30.5 hours total? Okay, only Corey. Jalen says she got that also. Okay. Let's see. And then how much did he make per hour? There it is. Class? $9.25. We had to multiply by 9.25. And Corey, what was your final answer? What was his gross pay?
$277.50.
Oh, yes.
$229.
Oh, multiply it at your seats, real quick. Multiply your 30.5 total hours by $9.25 an hour. Multiply the $9.25 an hour by the 30.5 hours we figured out he worked. Remember, you don't necessarily have to include the row of zeros as long as you remember to put in 2 zeros to skip over. How many got 282.125? Yeah, problem is this is money, isn't it? Can we have 3 decimal places in money? No. So we're going to round our answer off. We're going to say it makes $282, class, and 13 cents. 13 cents. Last one, number 10. Read this for us, Joel.
Sam Howell makes $20 an hour as a police dispatcher. Last week, some of his coworkers were sick, and he worked 58 hours. Find his gross pay. Assume he earns time and a half for overtime hours.
We actually mentioned this earlier. I forgot this was in the homework, but class, what is the time and a half for $20 an hour?
10.
Well, the half is 10, so it's really $30 an hour, right? So he makes $20 an hour for a certain number of hours, then he makes $30 an hour for a certain number of hours. Well, how many hours are you allowed to work according to the U.S. government before you get overtime pay, class? 40 hours. So we know if he works, 58 hours, he's making $20 an hour for how many of those hours? Speak down? 40. All right, Joel, how many overtime hours did he work?
800?
No, not 800.
Overtime.
How many? 18 hours. So then we multiply. Now you did the first problem. He gets $800 for his regular pay plus 18 overtime hours at $30 an hour. That's a lot of hours in a week, but that's also a lot of money in a week. How much did he get just for his overtime pay?
$540.
$540. That's in addition to the $800 he got for his regular pay. How much total money did he earn, his gross pay, that week?
$1,340.
$1,340 is correct. Did anyone else have that answer for that overtime problem? Okay, questions on that? One more way in which we can make money, and that is commission. Look over at page 5 now. Page 5, right across the page. Many people who work in sales, especially sales of large items like cars, furniture, jewelry, houses. We call them realtors if they sell houses. But those type of things, they get something called commission. Commission. I think we looked at this just briefly earlier in the year when we first talked about percentages. But they get a percentage of their sales. I want you to write this at the top of the page if you would. Commission is rate of sales. And I'm second guessing. No, I got it spelled correctly. Commission is rate of sales. The rate will be some percent. The sales will be some total number. And the commission is the part that they earn as income. So commission is rate of sales. Do you see that this is worded like our percent problems? And that's all commission problems will be, are percent problems. Now, notice it does say often an hourly wage or a salary is guaranteed in addition to commission. But this amount is often purposely small to incentivize effort. If a person isn't motivated and cautiously aggressive, he won't survive in a job where primary income is through commission. Think of a car salesman. How many have ever been to a car lot with your folks? And that salesman, he desperately wants to sell you a car. You know why? Because he gets a piece of the pie. If he sells a car to you for, let's say, $30,000, your parents, for $30,000, he gets a piece of that. And he needs a piece of that because he's not making very much money otherwise. And that's on purpose. The car dealership wants him to really, really, really want to sell you cars. Now, sometimes car salesmen go over the top and they drive away customers. Those people don't last long, right? You got to be motivated and cautiously aggressive, right? So usually you can play on that just a little bit. Now, I will say this. It's back in my day, you could negotiate prices a little bit more. Nowadays, salesmen don't negotiate price too much. Now they want to add in extras. But back in the day, when I was first buying my car, I could get them to really adjust prices because they'd a whole lot rather lose a few $1,000s on the sale and actually make a sale than completely lose the sale, right? They desperately want to sell you a car. And so at least that's how it used to be. Again, nowadays, these car dealerships are trying to keep from having to lower their prices and stuff like that. But anyway, let's look at some problems together, see if we can help you figure out how this works. What do we call this percentage of sales class?
Commission.
Commission. That's another way of earning money. That's another form of income. Commission. So salesmen want that commission. Look at number 1, and this is a really high commission rate. I'll be honest with you. I don't know that most people would get a commission rate this high, but read number 1 for us if you would, Ben.
If a salesman receives 9% commission, find his income from $3,456 worth of sales.
All right, so here's what we're going to do, class. We've got this form. Commission is rate of sales. I don't know the commission, right? I want to find his commission, so I'm going to say what's his rate, class?
$9.
9% of, and what were his sales?
$3,456.
Do you see, this is exactly what you do. You plug in all the numbers. What is 9% of $3,456? And you see, this is just like the homework. All we have to do, class, since we know both sides of, we simply multiply. 3,456 times, careful, make it a decimal, class, 0.09. And go ahead and find that. Some speed demons here got it already. And what do we get, Michael?
$311.04.
$311.04 is correct. Questions on how to set it up. Even if you're not as fast multiplying as Michael, questions on how to set that up. All right, look at number 2. Read that one for us if you would, Elaine.
A car salesman sells a car for $24,500. He receives 1% commission on car sold. Find his income from the sale of the car.
Again, it says find his income, find his commission. So since we don't know the commission class, we can just write what? Because we don't know it, right? What is, now we do know his rate though, Elaine.
The rate is 1%.
1% of, and we know his sales.
$24,500.
$24,500. Do you see how easy it is to plug in these numbers? Now, what do I need to do, class? Multiply, because I know both sides of the word of. So I'm going to multiply by, Elaine?
By 0.01.
Couldn't be easier. You're really just multiplying by 1 and putting in 2 decimal places. So what do we get for that answer? Joel's got it already.
$245.
Dollars. There we go, $245. How many had that same answer there? Again, times 1 and then put your 2 decimal places in. $245, 0 cents, I guess you could say. Number 3, read this one for us. If you would just read through part 1 for us, Corey.
Nick earns $7 per hour as a furniture store salesman. He also earns $3% commission on all sales. He receives a paycheck at the end of each month. If he works 35 hours each week, find his gross weekly wages.
All right, so 35 hours each week. And he makes how much per hour?
$7.
Notice how commission doesn't factor in yet, right? He's getting paid just a little lower than minimum wage to incentivize him to want to sell stuff. But he is getting paid to show up and work, even if he sells nothing. Does that make sense? Even if he sells nothing, he still gets paid something for showing up, dusting off furniture, vacuuming the floor, greeting customers, trying to sell stuff. He still gets paid, and he gets paid $7 an hour for how many hours again?
35.
35. Okay, at your seats, find your first answer. His gross weekly wages. What are going to be, part 1, his gross weekly wages? Bryson, what you got? $245. How many got the same answer there? All right, now, part 2, Corey.
Assuming 4 weeks to the month, find his grossly monthly wages.
His gross monthly wages. Okay, that assumes there's 4 weeks in the month. Well, if every week, class, he's making $245 and days 4 weeks in a month, roughly, let's just say it's 4 for sake of the problem, what do we do now, Corey?
Multiply by 4.
Multiply that by 4. What are his monthly wages? Now, we found his weekly wages. Now multiply 4 to get his monthly wages. What you got, Griffin?
$980.
$980. How many still keeping up with me here? So in the month, $980, these are his wages, but he still gets to earn commission, right? He gets this just for showing up to work, plus, which isn't very much in a month, by the way. That would be very, very sad. So it's a good thing he gets commission as well. Number 3, read that for us now, Corey.
If he is responsible for selling $5,200 worth of furniture this past month, find his commission for the month.
All right, so he sells how much money, Corey?
$5,200.
And he gets paid what rate? Looking back at the original problem, it told us he gets 3% commission, and we're trying to find his commission. At your seats, find what his commission will be. Find what his commission will be. And what you got there? Luciana, do you have it?
$6.
Ooh, you're multiplying by 0.03, right? Times the $5,200 worth of sales, times 0.03, Jalen?
156.
We should get $156 worth of, I'm just going to say COM for commission. How many had $156 in commission? All right, so he earns this for showing up to work, plus he gets this much because of furniture sales. So, number 4, find his total gross pay for the month. Class, what do we got to do? Kind of like tips where you add it on to the wages. We're just going to add the commission onto the wages. And Corey, final answer, what's his total gross pay?
$1,381.
Oh, help Elaine.
$1,136.
$1,136. Just add the two numbers to it there, Corey. 980 and 156. I would line it up vertically, like this, so you can see it a little bit better. 1,136, which, by the way, is still pretty low. Probably he needs to be selling a whole lot more than that, doesn't he? And so maybe sales isn't his line of work. Okay, maybe he needs to find a different line of work because that's not making it happen. Number 4. Read number 4 for us, if you would now. Elaine.
Mrs. Jones is a head saleswoman for a large vendor. She is paid a salary of $5,000 each month, along with a 4.5% commission on sales over $100,000. Last month, she sold $148,000 worth of merchandise. Find Mrs. Jones' commission.
And we'll get to her gross pay in a second. Now, this is interesting, class. Some places, they don't pay you commission on your total sales. They say, we expect this much sales out of you. But if you go beyond that, we'll start paying you a commission. That's where Mrs. Jones is at. She doesn't get commission until her sales go over what number, Elaine?
100,000.
100 grand, right? She's got to sell 100 grand worth of whatever this thing is before she starts getting any commission. Well, how much does she actually end up selling, Elaine?
$148,200.
How many see that? She sold $148,200. So how much did she go over, Elaine?
$48,200.
That's the amount she gets to earn commission on. Does everyone understand that? Because it said she only earns commission over 100 grand, that's her sales number. And she gets what percent?
4.5.
4.5% of that. At your seats. Find her commission. She's making more in commission than poor Nick earned all last month. That's how she got to be head saleswoman, you know. Remember, 3 decimal places in that answer, and you can hang the 2 zeros to start off. Joel's got it?
2,169.
There we go, $2,169. Write that down even if you didn't quite finish just yet. $2,169, that's her commission. But it said she also made how much salary again, Elaine?
$5,000.
Okay, so she gets that salary, $5,000, which is really good salary, plus she gets this commission. So final question, what's her total gross pay for the month, Elaine?
$7,169.
$7,169. Questions number 4. Questions number 4. Drop down to number 8 very quickly. We're not going to do this one because we're running out of time, but it tells us that, oh, never mind. No, we do need to work that one, don't we? Okay. Sorry. Number 5, we're just looking at the clock, realizing we're about to run out of time. Number 5, shoe store clerk, $12.50 an hour, and 6% commission on sales in excess of $2,500 per week. Find his gross pay for a 40-hour week if he sold $3,870 worth of shoes. First thing we need to do, class, $12.50 an hour times 40, because he worked 40 hours, right? You would multiply, we're not going to do it for sake of time, but we're going to multiply that. That's his wages. Plus, if he goes over $2,500 in sales, he makes commission. Well, he did go over $2,500 in sales, didn't he? How much did he sell, class? $3,870. How much over $2,500 is that, anybody?
$1,870.
Careful. $1,370. Stay with me. This is $1,370 over. He earns, was it a 2.5% commission? 6%. Wow, 6%. Here's a 6% commission. We would multiply that to get that number, and like Mrs. Jones, we would add that to the wages that he'd already gotten. Number 6 builds on that and says, what if that shoe clerk had $75.38 deducted from his paycheck? Find his, how do we find net pay? Subtract. Gross pay minus this deduction. So whatever we would have had for number 5, we would subtract to get his net pay. Real quick, I need to look at number 7 and 8 with you. I know we're going a little over, but time is fleeting here. Look at number 7. It says Sam needs to earn $3,000 in commission this month. Do you see that we're being told the needed commission amount? And it tells us his rate, class, is 4%. The question says, what do his total sales need to be? Does that make sense? So if he needs to make $3,000 every month for his budget to work, and he gets a 4% commission rate, what do the sales need to be? Class, how do I find this back number?
Divide.
You divide. Remember, put the first number over the other number. In this case, what other number goes down here, class? 0.04. Remember, we're going to go boink, 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 and the top number is going to go in the house. You're going to have similar problems in your homework tonight. Then look at number 8. Melissa Gray earned $2,600 this month, including a base salary of $1,500. How much was her commission? Well, class, if she earned $2,600, but only $1,500 of that was salary, what was the commission amount? $1,100, right? If $1,500 of it is her salary, the other $1,100 must have been her commission. And then it says, if the $1,100 was her commission, and she was responsible on part 2 for how much in sales, class? 22 grand in sales. What is her rate of commission? Well, what do I have to do to find the rate of commission, class? Divide. What goes on top? The 1100. What goes underneath it? The 22 grand. And of course, we'd knock off some zeros before doing that division problem. And we would get her rate of commission. Look at the back page. You've got a chart you're going to do for homework tonight, page 6. You're going to do this chart and, of course, do some quick unit conversion facts. We'll fill in those. Those are done from memory very quickly. But you're going to fill in that chart, figuring out either the amount of commission, the rate of commission, or the sales amount. Remember, commission is rate of sales. If you'll start with that layout, no trouble at all tonight on that chart. Have a wonderful rest of your day. You are dismissed.